devours the prey. And lion is a big animal, and it eats a lot of food. Sometimes it captures the smaller animals, it eats, but it's not fully satisfied, and it keeps going forward in different directions and forward to look for the prey, more and more prey. But peculiarly, a lion, after some time, when it is running towards its prey in the forward direction, it appears that it stops at a point, at different points in that hunt to complete its appetite, and it stops, and then it does the very famous thing of a lion, very gracious and very royal, majestic, and then it looks back very consciously. Why it looks back is that it looks back to see if it had left anything there that it can easily get it instead of going front. Is it worth doing that way? And then it decides whether to wait or get back or to move forward. And that's why it's called Simhavalokana. It's a very conscious decision to ensure what it devours and the prey that it's trying to attack is easily available to him. Same way, in our journey of devotion service and particularly reading also, it's good sometimes for us to take a pause and look back on whether we are doing it right or wrong, whether what we are supposed to be getting, are we getting it? What is the ultimate aim? What is ultimate benefit? So this is Simhavalokana. There's nothing wrong in it. It's a valid way of taking a revision, taking a pause, looking back. And then there's another kind of a revision called Vihanga Avalokanam. Vihanga means bird. Birds fly, right? And when they fly higher and higher, they get a very, very high level view. We also call it a bird's eye view. So bird can lower down its journey in the sky, the air, and then it can have a different perspective, and it can go up, it can have a different perspective. So in our process of revision or reading the scriptures, we can also at times can go a bit closer and see what is there very near us, and we can also take a higher look at to see what is the higher perspective. Why it is needed? Vihangavalokanam is needed because sometimes we may know about a topic, or we are knowing about a topic, we have read about a topic, but it's not mere reading, right, for our own purification. We have a very important responsibility of distributing the legacy. In Hindi, they call it virasat, right? A legacy to others also. That's also a part of a form of book distribution, knowledge distribution. So for us to do that, if we just put ourselves with a lot of information or knowledge within us, when it has to come out, it has to come out in different forms according to different situations. Sometimes there is an opportunity for us to do a detailed thing, like the way we are trying to do today. We have 1 hour and 15 minutes of time, and this is meant a steady circle meeting or a group where you can tend to be detailed enough. But in some cases, we may have to give a very quick overview of what we understand. So when we practice this Vihanga Avalokanam, we'll also see whatever we have learned, can we get a snapshot or a bird's eye view of what I know, so that if I have to articulate that, if I have to express that in a short space of time, but to a different set of audience, am I prepared to do that or not? So even though we know some things, it is better to have these types of revisions as a regular practice in our thing. So in our today's session, since it's not a regular standard Bhagavatam class of a shloka based one, I will also try to have some pause moments and try to initiate or trigger a recap, right? I'll be using only very few slides. It will be mostly, I'll try to speak, or in some cases, I'll read some texts as appropriate. And please also note that I will be repeating few important messages because I feel that they are the takeaways. For those people for whom it will be total revision, it's fine. If you're finding something new, and particularly if you find some interest or you feel that something as a takeaway being told is beneficial to you, kindly make it a point to remember. Because today's subject matter of discussion is mood of studying Srimad Bhagavatam, and my main source of the information, which I'm going to talk probably the 80% of what it is from a book called The Art of Studying and Teaching Scriptures by His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. I'm sure all of you must be knowing him, but it's my duty to pay respects, gratitude, thanks to him for writing such an inspiring book, which is going to be useful for so many people, not only in this generation, in the generations to come. And I also was very fortunate enough to hear a few sessions of him talking about the same book in one of our GBC college courses. So I thought I would take this topic and try to do something to share about this with all of you who are very, very regular students of Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a great pleasure for me. So you're able to see my screen? So
yes,
it's a very small book, even though the color seems a bit different, but this is how it looks like, yellow color. When I took the picture, the color got a bit changed. So this is a book from Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, is a very well-known personality, Dean of Bhakti Vedanta Vidyapit at ISKCON Govardhan Eco Village. Is an educator, an author, conducts many programs for children, youth, adults, 7,000 plus hours of spiritual discourses, and many big institutes. He appears there and he goes there to give sessions, and authored about 30 books. Very famous are Subodhini series of books on Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also written books for children also. And also has got a very special interest in shlokas. The way he recites shlokas are very interesting and very good, very captivating. So he has also compiled books like Gita Ratnamala, Bhagavat Ratnamala, Chaitanya Ratnamala, Bhagavata Tattva Mala. So many things he has written. He also runs a monthly magazine called Bhagavata Pradipika. He also contributes in Back to God magazine. So very senior, advanced, a devotee who has assimilated the essence of the scriptures very well, and young also, and a very big asset to the ISKCON in many ways. So today we'll be talking mainly about this book, what is there. I will not be covering entire book, but I'll just quickly give an introduction, and I'll just tell what I'm trying to cover. So the book starts with the need for scriptures, and then the mood of studying scriptures. This is our topic. And then method of studying scriptures, and art of learning shlokas, and mood of teaching scriptures, and method of teaching scriptures. This is the book about. It's a small book, but it's a very content driven, very serious content driven book. So today our topic is, as I said, mood of studying scriptures. In the mood of studying scriptures, there are three topics: spiritual culture, qualities of a good student of the scriptures, a role of research and scholarship. So I will make an attempt to cover only one section of it, and also will also improvise some of my thoughts and experiences and few other reference points that I've collected while I am reading this book. So basically, the whole book, our main topic is only spiritual culture. And if time permits, I'll touch base on two of the aspects of good qualities, qualities of a good student of the scriptures. So let's see how it goes. So the whole thing is about mood of studying scriptures, and within that, what did Gaurang Darshan Prabhu convey as an important message on spiritual culture. So normally we would have heard the words like Vaishnava culture, Vaishnava Sadachar, and things like that, right? But in studying scriptures, if I have to read a book, if I want to do a svadhyaya, if I want to increase my knowledge, why I should be so keen about something a topic like a spiritual culture. So this is what we are going to cover. So in his book, this is one of the graphics that he's told, and this is our discussion today rotates around this thing, spiritual cultures, Swaja, Sadhana, Seva, Sadachara, and Sangha. And interestingly, if you see, all these words are, we are very, very familiar, right, with these words. But we'll see how Prabhu has covered them, yeah, and help us to progress further and make our reading or studying good. So in today's session, when I use the word reading and studying, I request you to consider them as synonymous, even though they are different linguistically, and even the application wise they are different. Why I'm using the word as a synonymous manner is because we also have the habit. Reading is a common word that is used. For example, when we meet some devotees or when we talk to them, we say, "Did you read Bhagavad Gita? Did you read completing the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam?" The read word we use, but actually what we are intending is, did you study Bhagavad Gita? Did you study first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam? Reading at a higher level is just going through a written or a printed matter, mainly to comprehend the information within it. It involves understanding the context, meaning, and what is the author is going to tell, what is the core content of it. But studying, on the other hand, involves more active and intentional engagement process with the material to learn. Point number one, understand and retain information. Because studying in general, in a normal material terms also, study means there is something, and at the end of the study, there will be some exam, right? Whether to qualify for a certification, to qualify for a job, or to qualify for an interview. So retaining, understanding, learning is mainly meant for that, from a material perspective. But in spiritual perspectives also, we have to test ourselves on a daily basis. So for that, we need to learn, understand, and retain information. So that's why studying becomes a very important aspect. So whether I'm saying the word studying or reading, reading is a part of studying. So in that way, you understand it instead of making a very clear-cut definition, differentiation. Okay, and studying also includes, kind of various strategies and techniques aimed at deepening comprehension. So that's very important. Studying is an art that we can develop. That's why Prabhu has titled this book, The Art. This is not a God-given gift. Yes, God-given faculties do help us, our intellectual propensity, capacity, but we can make use of some strategies and techniques to deepen our comprehension. So deepening our comprehension is a part of the very study process, right? Few methods as to highlighting the important points, like the way I told that today I'll be pausing at some point in time to highlight the important points. Taking notes, sometimes some people take notes in different forms and ways, trying to summarize what we have understood to others, and trying to make connections and references with what's being told, and applying that information to solve problems or answer questions. So that makes our comprehension much more deeper. Trying that information to solve the problems of our own life or people around us and answers question, because studying is a very important thing. And we have recently completed our GBC College leadership program, where we had the opportunity to learn from so many great devotees. So in one session, which was conducted by Radhika Raman Prabhu, he was talking about Jiva Goswami, the glory of Jiva Goswami. And there he makes a mention the importance of studying, importance of preserving the knowledge in the form of books so that others can study, and training. He gives a very, very good analysis from the history, which says that the spiritual societies or communities or the religious practices that survived over the course of thousands of years are only those wherein those communities of those practices had a formal, systematic training and a study program and the documentation supporting it. And all other practices which came and fell off and became dim in the course of history are those who did not concentrate on it. So luckily for us, in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, we have star devotees who spend a lot of time in documenting things and revealing things through Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, abundant knowledge that is available. But all that we need to do is to focus our effort to know what are those strategies and techniques so that we can deepen our understanding. So in summary, reading is a fundamental skill of gathering information and understanding it, whereas study involves a more deliberate, active process of engaging with the material that we want to learn. And sometimes we can also say that the material we want to master. Okay. So this is a study group. So that's why I'm re-emphasizing the importance of studying here. It's a very, very important part of our spiritual journey. And particularly with respect to the scriptural study or studies in our devotion life, when our study deepens, that means we become more and more involved, we will come to know that we are not dealing with a mere book of text or words. That is very, very important. That is the journey that we need to be aspiring for. As our comprehension deepens, as our study deepens, that when we see that book, we don't see the book with text and words or shlokas, but we see a personality or personalities with whom we develop very unique relationship. So when we read a book, when we study a book, it is not just text and words that we're studying, but we are building a relationship with those personalities who are described and glorified and talked about in that book. So if you're reading of Bhagavad Gita, for example, deepens, when we think of Bhagavad Gita itself, when we touch Bhagavad Gita, when we're reading a purport or when we're explaining a purport, suddenly, those personalities come like Krishna, Arjuna, where we develop an attachment, a relationship with them because our study is getting deeper. And we are also developing a taste and faith and comprehension about them, right? And those great devotees who have revealed that knowledge that has transpired between Krishna and Arjuna, whom we so much revere, after understanding Bhagavad Gita more and more, right? If you just study a very high level story of Mahabharata, we may have some impression about Krishna and Arjuna. But if we go deeper and deeper of studying it and come to the greatest philosophical dialogue that happened in the end of Mahabharata, almost at the end of Mahabharata, Arjuna and Krishna in the form of Bhagavad Gita, our total perception of who is Krishna, who is Arjuna will all change, right? And so much so, our increase in respect and gratitude towards Srila Prabhupada was given as Bhagavad Gita as it is, will increase. And that's why we build a very strong relationship. And that makes our understanding much more retainable. And why we have to retain it? Because it's our duty to give that thing to people. That's our main duty as well, right? So same way in Srimad Bhagavatam also, when we read, when we deepen our understanding, we get to know more and more about personalities there. Of course, Krishna is very, very central figure of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 10th canto, almost 40 chapters are only dealing with Krishna's childhood pastimes and so many other pastimes, and so many other devotees are there. But like if you take the example of Shiva, Narada, when we read Bhagavatam, when we study Bhagavatam, the amount of understanding that we get about them and the kind of a unique relationship that we build about these great personalities. I'm taking the example of Shiva and Narada for a particular reason, because these are the two great personalities who appear in Bhagavad in different phases. In almost every canto, some reference directly or indirectly is there about them. So when we read that, The moment somebody talks about Shiva, the moment we see a deity of Shiva in a temple, our relationship and the way we interact with the deity, the kind of prayers that we try to invoke are very different than before when we read Srimad Bhagavatam. Unless somebody even has got that knowledge by hearing, otherwise it's not there. So, like that, Narada also, we get a very different opinion, right, about when we read and study. Why this is also important is this kind of a deepening our comprehension and building a relationship with the book as a personality and the personalities within is also provides us a safety net. This is a very important in these days of information overload. So many people talk so many things and it's very confusing sometimes. So in order to protect ourselves from some concocted messages that get conveyed, which seemingly are very pleasing to ears and our senses, seemingly very gratifying, seemingly very attractive, but they may lead us to a different direction in our devotional path. They may completely distract us. So, how do we protect ourselves and how do we create our own safety net to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra? Is by personally engaging ourselves in studying and deepening our comprehension. Otherwise, there is a very easy way to get distracted. Even within in the spiritual context, even within the spiritual societies, because there are so many people and so many types of opinions, so many ways of understanding comes. But if you have to stick to the basics, foundational elements, foundational principles, then it's very important for us to study seriously the scriptures. Particularly when we talk about scriptures, there are two main ones, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and the extended form in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So when I'm talking about studying, I also said when I say reading, studying is also part of it. Reading is a part of studying, and listening is also part of studying. Some people may not be able to study, but they listen and they see people following something and they grasp it, right. Listening, following through somebody's example, they're all part of deepening our comprehension, which forms a broader segment of uh, study. So this book starts with a foreword by His Grace Gauranga Prabhu. So it's very important that we need to recapitulate that before we get into the topic. So I'll just read out what he said and try to highlight something which really stuck me when I was reading. For over 3 decades now, this is Gaurang Prabhu writing the forward. For 3 decades now, I've been studying Vedic scriptures, especially by, he doesn't use the word studying, you closely watch, especially by serving the books of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. So Gaurang Prabhu uses the word serving the books. So that means studying the books in the right mood and through right methods is also a service, and we are serving the author. My personal recipe for reading the sacred scriptures includes repeatedly reading them, carefully memorizing the parts that are otherworldly beautiful, sharing the profound contents with others, imbibing their teachings as my life's value system. Okay, so Prabhu also is exactly mentioning what we talked about, importance of studying, repeatedly reading them, carefully memorizing parts that are otherworldly beautiful, sharing their profound contents with others. Preaching is essence, books are the basis, we know that, and imbibing their teachings as my own life's value system. And then, very interestingly, he adds few words that are very, very important. For undertaking whatever other services I humbly try to offer to the world around. So by serving the books of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, not only he is saying that he's getting a very good value system to be adopted in his life, but it is also helping him in undertaking other services that he has to do to the world around or the community around. So reading books is just not for our own sake, when we read the books, study the books properly, automatically we will be empowered to do our services in a better way. So it is just not the knowledge that remains with us. It's very naturally it comes, and it is demonstrable. People can easily see that we are well read, because we have made what we have studied or read as our value system, and in whatever service we do, the reading part comes. There is one other very nice conversation that is there in the book of Gauranga Darshan Prabhu and his friend at co-Sevadari. I'll read it later, but this is the important thing. So, serving the books, and by studying the books properly, by serving the books in whatever services that we do, it automatically reflects the importance and good of it. And he continues, as a personal testimony of the potency of scriptures, I can confidently declare that anyone can gain unexplored inner strength and untold outer success in their life by personally associating with the Lord through his books. Again, to reiterate the main point that I told, the book is not just the words of text. The book is for us to create and maintain and nourish personal relationship with the author and with also the personalities about and the important things that are being told in the books. Yeah, by personally associating with the Lord through his books. So books gives us a very, very unique opportunity for us to associate with the Lord in a very unique and a personal manner. So in that way, they're very, very potent. Moreover, the potency of Srila Prabhupada's purports to the divine scriptures is such that anyone who comes in contact with, by seeing, by touching, by reading, by distributing, is immediately endowed with an unprecedented wealth of bhakti and impetus for developing a loving relationship with the Supreme Divine Lord Krishna. So this is what Gauranga Darshan Prabhu has told. So serving books and then imbibing them, so that in our other services that we do, this benefit that we accrue by studying is demonstrable, applicable, and personally associating with the personalities and the persons about which the book is written, and it gives an impetus for developing loving relationship with the Supreme Divine Lord Krishna. So this foreword is very important because this is the key to unravel and have the similar realization as Gauranga Prabhu is what is explored in this book. So he further continues in his foreword with a very, very touching example. He writes, for offering a pleasing Arati ceremony to the Lord, which is externally very visibly demonstrable, right? We can see how the pujari is offering. One has to follow a defined methodology and offer particular articles and services to the Lord. The worship ceremony must be rendered in a devotional mood characterized by reverential attention to detail, accompanied with loving absorption in the ceremony. We can easily see, right, some pujaris do so as we watch the Aarti ceremony itself, by watching the deities, the decoration, and the way the pujari is doing, completely absorbed in doing that service as an offering of obeisances and performing the Aarti ceremony through him and on our behalf is very, very attractive, right? It increases our nourishment and devotion. Similarly, there are practices and attitudes one can develop to truly and quickly benefit from their scriptural study. So there are some practices and attitudes that we can develop. So one of the foremost attitude Gauranga Darshan Prabhu presents in this book is mood. He does not directly jump to say, explain the importance of scripture studies. He does that. Why scriptures is a first topic. First chapter is why scriptures. Each word he describes with an acronym kind of a thing. But then he doesn't directly jump to method. he gives what is why scriptures are important to read, and then how the method is there. He intersperses a thing called mood, an attitude, an intangible element in some way or other. For us, for the reader to know, in order to execute the method for the knowledge that is given in the what, there has to be something that the reader or a serious student of Srimad Bhagavatam and the other scriptures have to imbibe. And that is called mood. Mood is in simple terms of English, it is defined, it's a state of mind, they call it. Happiness is a state of mind. Mood is a state of mind one is in. Sometimes we also use it, right? I'm not in good mood. Suppose we get disturbed and somebody comes and tries to say, no, don't touch me, don't come near me, I'm in a very bad mood. Or sometimes we say, I'm in a very good mood. Like mood is just a state of mind. We are. But something happens that either elates us or puts us down, and that is mood. And that mood you cannot physically pinpoint in a part of a body where it is and how is it acting. So that's why the word mood is basically, that's why it transcends the normal linguistic definition, because it has got a multifaceted human emotions, perceptions, inquiries, and it is, even though it appears to be a very internal phenomena because it's a state of mind, but it is also very clear to all of us that it's also influenced by external factors such as environment and social interactions and the context. If it's only an internal affair, as some psychologists talk about, then it's very easy, right? So if you just go to a very solitary space within our mind, we should be able to control our moods. But unfortunately, it's not like that. The reality is that mood has got a very much influence on the external factors, environment, and the people whom we deal with, the situation, right? And so that's why the mood of studying scriptures is probably given before method of studying scriptures. Okay, so some very important points on how to create mood to study the scriptures is what I highlight first. I'll repeat these 2 points because these form the essence of the whole thing that we are going to do. Because this has to create a wow moment for us to know why we need to create a good mood. Okay. First, reading scripture is not just an exercise of the intelligence, but it's an experience of heart. We must feel that relationship, that connection. It has to be a heart-to-heart connection. It is not just being intelligent and learning, memorizing, and being able to talk about it. It has to completely come from our heart. So this is the journey that we have to continue to go and continue to strive. It may be very easy for us, people like to tell, but very difficult to practice. But if we keep this point consciously, every line, every paragraph, every topic that we read and memorize, we realize that we are not doing for our sense gratification, for our glory, but every point, every step, I'm going to get more connected with Lord. I'm going to get more understanding of the Lord. And the second point, first is, it has to be an experience of the heart. When you read a book, when you read a topic, when you close it, there has to be some feeling of transformation, some feeling of lightheartedness, some feeling of purity has to come. And it will happen as we go deeper and deeper in studying Srimad Bhagavatam. In the beginning stages, it can be mechanical because we are all in a very, very conditioned state. What I'm trying to tell is a very aspirational state. But there are guides, there are teachers, there are great devotees who are there, who have already set that path for us to move forward. Our second point is, our purpose behind studying the scriptures must be aligned with the purpose for which they were written. This is extremely important. The purpose of we reading the book must be aligned the purpose for which they are written. For example, if you are reading this book, right? If you are reading this book, why Gaurang Darshan Prabhu has taken effort to write this, is that he wants more and more people who are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other books of Srila Prabhupada to know what is there in a much better way, right? That's the purpose. And we are reading this book to get that essence of what he's telling. So that purpose has to be very, very clear to our mind. But when it comes to reading scriptures, we must be aligned. Also, there also we must be aligned to the purpose for which they are written. They are not written to give us entertainment, right? Or they are not meant to make us very stoic and be aloof or something like that. The main purpose of the scriptures is to facilitate our increasing connection with God through loving service. More and more we read, our aspiration should be more and more, how am I connected with the Supreme Lord? How? Not with my speculative knowledge, but converting what I've read, what I've studied, what I've assimilated into loving service, either loving service to him or loving service to his devotees. So ultimately, the core content of the body of knowledge that we assimilate should come out as a product called loving service. So this has to be our aspiration. More deeper and deeper we comprehend our scriptures, more easily, effortlessly, this connection comes. But sometimes our alignment gets mismatched, and those are the moments of our self-introspection, and those are the moments of our revision. Just like the way I've given the example of a bird and a lion, this importance of sitting back, taking a back seat, taking a pause moment, and seeing where we are, what we are doing. Particularly here today's topic is studying scriptures. So are we studying scriptures in alignment to this goal of we rendering loving service? Like the way Gaurang Prabhu has told, all that reading that he has done, ultimately it is helping him to do his other services better. So that is the very, very, very in-depth meaning of that. And third point, we need to understand that the studying of our scriptures or deepening of our comprehension is directly proportional to the attitude with which we are studying there. The word attitude is also referring here as the mood. The mood with which we are studying is very important, and the result what we get is directly proportional to that. If we don't do it in a proper mood, we don't get the result. No matter, we may get the knowledge, we may get the information, we may be recognized as scholars, we may be recognized as good speakers, but our connection with God to perform loving devotional service somewhere gets diluted. So these 3 points are important. It should be experience of the heart, it should be aligned to the purpose for which they are written, and attitude that which we read is very important. It's like this. A simple example is that we know, right? Mood and method always fall there, and this comes synchronously. When we read the scripture, the right mood is definitely will help us to nourish and also give good result for the exercise that we do. Exercise means studying. Studying is also we invest time and effort, right? That's why I'm calling it exercise. And like the way, suppose when we go to a doctor, he prescribes a medicine, and along with the medicine, he also prescribes a kind of a lifestyle, a do's and don'ts, right? You take this medicine before food, after food, you have to change your lifestyle. Or just by taking medicine alone, it will not work. We have to also follow this supplementary lifestyle thing that the doctor is telling. Same is also with scriptural studies. There's nothing different. So that's why we need to endeavor to create favorable circumstances for us to study properly, because we are in a very conditioned world. We are having our own sense gratification issues, right? Labha, puja, pratishtha, so many things, so many bad elements are there within us. So there's a constant struggle. So that's why we need to see what are the important elements that will help us to create a favorable circumstances for us to create a right attitude to study Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita scriptures. Why? Because we should ultimately know that in order to perform, in order to get connected to the Lord through study of scriptures, and to be able to provide or render loving devotional service, that means there has to be a transformation of our heart. Without transformation of our heart, it's impossible to do those things. So the ultimate result or ultimate aspirational goal that we have to serve the Lord or his devotees, loving devotional service, is not possible because our consciousness is quite contaminated or conditioned in a way. So there has to be transformation. And studying books helps us to transform. There is no doubt about it. Because particularly studying books with the right attitude, will regenerate. And somewhere there is a change in our consciousness, and that will trigger a change in our character. And then instead of looking at information in the books, we look to get transformed from the result of the study. So we may start the scriptural study with trying to find information, trying to find some data points, right? But slowly, there will be a transformation that keeps happening in our heart. And that transformation, as I told before, it turns our attention to love of Godhead and loving devotional service. And in the loving devotional service also, how we respectfully deal with other Vaishnavas. This is another big benefit or aspiration goal that we should have. First, comprehensive study, then not the texts, connect with God. Why we need to connect with God? We need to render our devotional services properly in a loving manner, in an enjoyable manner. And how we can demonstrate that? In our respectful dealings with other Vaishnavas. So if we have to respectfully deal with other Vaishnavas, you backtrack. Then we need to know what's meaning or enjoyment of doing loving devotion service. How can we do that? We have to get connected to the God. How can we personally and uniquely, according to our own taste and our own capacity, connect with God? Reading scriptures. How we need to read scriptures? From our heart, not as text or words. So this is a very deep connection that is there. And when we start dealing respectfully with other Vaishnavas, then whole perspective and whole realm of our stay in this world, whether in the material world, material perspective, or particularly in the communities, the spiritual communities, will completely transform. We will start getting that enjoyment of doing our services. So scholarship, intellectual studies, one part of it, and transformation is part of it. And other thing is that apart from scholarship, which we will eventually get, scholarship is just a byproduct. We don't have to even bother about it. It automatically comes when we start studying the scriptures seriously. Then the other most important thing comes is our appreciation of God. Our appreciation of God and our appreciation for God, and developing a love for him. This comes when we study scriptures. Particularly, it comes very fast if you have the right mood. Just the way we have discussed the example of a doctor, just taking the medicine but not following the lifestyle changes that is suggested, our progress or our recuperation may be slow. But taking the medicine regularly, following the lifestyle changes, will make our journey of recuperation very fast, right? So the attitude and mood helps us there. We'll quickly start developing the appreciation to the God and develop love for him. That is a very important thing, because in any of the scriptures that we see, the good thing is that we get ample opportunities to meditate, glorify, remember about the name, form, characteristic and pastimes of the Lord. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela of the Lord, right? Or Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela of his devotees. Many, many times it keeps on repeating, repeating, repeating. And that helps us. And then what happens as we are getting a propensity to get connected with Lord, to perform our loving, our devotional service, loving devotional service, by having very fruitful, engaging, loving relationship with other devotees, while we are enjoying the reading of meditating on the Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela, the most important thing that happens in this strain of things is that in our private conversations, we somehow, our mind gets attracted, pulled to talk about those things. This is very important. So, of course, in our private discussions among the devotees, of course, there's another other important aspect is there. Sometimes we are given a definite service is assigned to us by a yatra leader. Sometimes it could be a tough administrative service, or sometimes it's taking up Bhakti Diksha classes, or main book distribution, so many other services. So when we interact with devotees, sometimes we tend to talk about them. There's nothing wrong, because that's a duty that we have to do. But even in that, if we are constantly studying scriptures, and through which we are getting the opportunity to remember and meditate on Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela, in those conversations also, somehow or other, which are very private conversation about a service, right? Something connected with devotees or the Lord comes. So it comes automatically. It has to come automatically. And that makes our relationship, even when we are doing a very separate service, it may not be directly be connected with studying scriptures, but the effect of that studying scriptures will come because we tend to discuss that automatically. And that makes our conversations very engaging. And just the way we build relationship with Lord by reading the scriptures, right? That's one of the first points we said, right? It has to come from heart. It has to make a connection with the Lord and the personalities. But when after studying, when we read them and share with others, we get the similar connection, very strong relationship. And that will help, because sometimes while doing services, it's not easy. All of us are not the same way, right? Each one has got our own chemistry. We have some chemistry problems. We have communication problems. We have understanding problems. Sometimes, by situations, we may lose our control. We may get unnecessarily uncontrolled. Anger takes place, uncontrolled sense gratification, envy. Those things are all there, hovering around us. But if you follow this, if you consciously keep this thing in our mind, that when we engage with our devotees, even while doing normal service conversations, it paves a way for a very, very good thing. So here, I'll read. I like this very much. This a 2-page conversation. I've got this conversation is happening between Gaurang Darshan Prabhu and his friend in GEV, Global Eco Village. So when I read the word I, you imagine, that it is Gaurang Darshan Prabhu who is talking to his friend. So make a mental map, make a mental situation is there. And Gaurang Darshan Prabhu and his friend are now in GEV before their altar. So, do you know why Krishna wears a peacock? Was a jolting question my friend shot me. Standing before our beloved deity Sri Radha Vrindavan Bihari at Govardhan Eco Village, both of us had been discussing how the day's deity dressing and decoration turned out beautifully. So they have decorated the deities, and they're very happy to see the deities in that form. Fortunately, I knew the answer. I replied calmly, it was Krishna's heart-stealing flute play that made the king of the peacocks gift him a feather lovingly. Krishna danced along with the peacocks and put the feather on his head ever since. So his friend had, even while they are executing their devotional service, because of their in-depth absorption in the scriptures, in the connection, the conversation comes, right? conversation comes, and they just didn't place the peacock on the deity, but his friend is engaging the conversation. And Gauranga Darshan Prabhu told the answer that the king of the peacocks presented Krishna, and so Krishna is wearing it. But the conversation doesn't stop here, because one is his friend is eager to share his connection, his absorption on the topic that he knew. So then I thought, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu is saying, I thought I won over the quest. Little did I know, more was still to come. Well, that is right. But there is another reason, he said. Then Gauranga Darshan Prabhu said, what is that? I asked, now curious to uncover all the unknown happenings. And again, imagine that they're doing this service, and this is the conversation that's happening. Smiling faintly, he replied, Radharani had a pet peacock. Krishna wears that peacock's feather to impress Radharani. So now, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu has got the second reason for why Krishna is wearing this. I was both thrilled and amazed. Isn't it there always more to know from scriptures? The inexhaustible banks of wisdom, I mused. Exchanging glances, we turned our gaze to the beautiful deities of Radha and Vrindavan Bihari in front of us. They were smiling most mercifully, somewhat a little broader this time, I thought, for they had seen us rejoice their beauty both with our eyes and ears. So carefully listen this. Somewhat little broader this time, I thought, for they had seen us rejoice their beauty both with our eyes and with our ears. So the conversation has gone two steps. Why Krishna wears peacock? One reason, king of peacock gives a gift, and second, it's Radharani's pet. Then his friend continues, because that absorption makes us engage in those conversations, right? Machitta Madgata Prana. My friend sprang back in action. He fired another question. Do you know why Krishna wears multiple peacock feathers? Because they also put the multiple peacock feathers on the deity, right? Well, I never read, heard, or thought about it specifically. Even I decorated Vrindavan Bihar with multiple peacock feathers multiple times, but never knew what a reason behind it. His question kept billowing the fire of curiosity in me that had begun to burn brighter than ever before. Again, I'm coming back to the point, when devotees meet who are absorbed in deep studies, it just comes very, very automatically to switch on the conversations, to increase their thrust to give and for others' thrust to listen. Quenching my curiosity, he answered his own question. The eyes of Rajagopis are like the eyes of peacock feathers that never blink. Krishna wants to remember them forever. That is the reason you find him wearing multiple peacock feathers that resemble the eyes of gopis, which never want to, flicker. So then he basically talks about the gopis and their and how they always talk to Brahma also, why you created us like that, why our eyes are flickering and all. So the third reason. So because the eyes, the eye mark or the peacock feather doesn't blink, and Krishna wants to remember that. Surprising me even more, my dear friend unrolled another fact. The tails of peacock resemble the well-decorated braids of the gopis. So in order to remember the gopis, Krishna puts on peacock feathers. So now he talks about the tail of peacock feathers and like braids of the gopis. So Krishna, there's a fourth reason. And then his friend further goes on and he said there's another reason. Krishna's body is like a dark monsoon cloud. His golden yellow dress resembles lightning, while his voice is grave as thunder. The peacocks relate this form of Krishna that reminds them of the monsoon rains. Krishna wanted to reciprocate their love and thought of enamoring them further by displaying a rainbow along the clouds of lightning and thunder. That rainbow is very peacock feather in his hand. So he goes on giving the reasons. Here is now they go to the extent of seeing the Krishna's body as a Megasham, and clouds, rains, and peacocks, how they love, how they dance, and so on. The most important point thing is the conclusion of this. What Gauranga Darshan Prabhu concludes is this. You might be wondering what kind of a person my friend is. So then he describes about his friend. My friend's character, here's a snippet of my friend's character for you. Apart from scriptural reading, his meticulousness is clearly visible in all the services he takes up. He is my partner for our DT dressing service for several years. He is friendly in his dealings with other devotees and is a source of inspiration for me. I love getting into long discussions with him and learning from him things that have never found in their way. Learning from him, learning from him things that have never found their way into my ears. So the important point here is when we study and when we get deep into the study of the scriptures, it is a phenomenal opportunity for us not only to absorb, learn, and enjoy, it also share with others who would not have heard what our perspective, our understanding of certain things is there. And this discussion is just not that his friend is scholarly knowledgeable. Gaurang Darshan very clearly demonstrate, because of his deep study and absorption and connection with the Lord, to perform loving devotional service in all other activities that that person is doing, is those qualities are reflected. So that's the important study. And in the book, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu also quotes a verse from Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita 24:313. I'll just read the meaning because of want of time. He says, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, son of Srila Vyasadeva, was not only transcendently powerful, he was also very dear to the Lord, dear to the devotees of the Lord. Thus he underwent the study of this great narration. So here in the purports, it's told as Janapriya, Nityam Vishnu Janapriya. Why Sukadeva Goswami became very dear to the devotees, to the extent that when he narrated Bhagavatam, his own father, Narada, and so many great people came to listen to him, because he studied the great narration in a very deep manner. So when he talked about that, and he did it in a right mood on how it should be done. So that's why he became very well known, and his words just spoken at that point in time, we still, this current generation of people are also knowing. Because of that, we are also fortunate to know about so many pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, right? So one important outcomes of the Shastric study, in the right mood and correct method, this is an extremely good point. It's one of the main takeaways, and I like this very much in the book, what I'm going to read. So one of the important outcomes of the Shastric study is appreciation of other devotees for their appreciation towards Krishna. You can make a note of this, meditate on this many times, and each time you read this, you get a different kind of inspiration. Important outcomes of Shastric study is appreciation of other devotees for their appreciation towards Krishna. The example text that I've read clearly has a connection to this. Gauranga Darshan's appreciation towards his friend who has appreciation towards Lord, who knows about Lord and his pastors more, right? Again, I read, important outcome of Shastric study is the appreciation of other devotees for their appreciation towards Krishna. So there's no need to be envious about them, but if we tend to appreciate their appreciation towards Lord Krishna, their devotion, somewhere we also can have a chance to imbibe those qualities. So this is, and that appreciation can be not only one-sided, it can be very important. So that's where he introduces the concept of the word called spiritual care. Spiritual culture, not fair calling, spiritual culture. So spiritual culture has 5 elements. Spiritual culture itself seems to be a kind of a new word, as I told. It has, and when all the 5 words which are connected to spiritual culture we would have heard it many times. Sadhana, Swadhyay, Seva, Sadachar, Sadhu Sangha. Sadhana, we all know. So 5. Sadhana, Swadhyay, Seva, Sadachar, Sadhu Sangha. So it's important thing here is the book is about studying scriptures. So normally when we talk about studying scriptures, means Swadhyay. I read scriptures, I read alone or I read along with devotees. That is my Swadhyay. So Swadhyay is studying scriptures, right? But to properly studying scriptures, Swadhyay is only a part of it. That's the one important message I think, in my opinion, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu is trying to convey. So self-study, Swadhyay is a part of the self-study. Swadhyay means a self-study, a study with self, ourselves, or with, along with devotees. But there are other elements which have to be connected to make the study proper, and that are connected through a string or like a hub and a spoke. Hub is the spiritual culture, and that can be nourished when we follow this sadhana, Swadhyaya, Seva, Sadachar, Satsanga. Just like the way we have 5 limbs of devotion, right? 5 limbs of devotion that are very often quoted. And sadhana, of course, I'll quickly now go through the things. Sadhana means practice or regulated life, meeting devotional commitments, doing our duty sincerely. These are the typical words when we talk about sadhana, right? Regulation, discipline. But according to me, in a personal sense, very personal sense, sadhana is a very individualistic activity that we do. It's very individual and very personal to us, our own self. So that's why it needs more introspection, because our sadhana levels, it's very difficult for others to judge. They may judge how we speak, they may judge how we distribute books, they may judge how we administrate things, they may distribute how many people we can impress or not impress. But sadhana is a thing that it's very inward thing. It's very implicitly is there in us, which has got a very strong bond to the spiritual culture, which sets the mood for us to read the scriptures. So that is the reason why we need to be very carefully introspect time and again within ourselves, because other people may not be able to know, except for those people probably who are staying very close to us in our family life. Otherwise, it's there. And second thing is, between the challenges of our roles, many roles that we play in our devotional life, also it becomes very challenging. So balance, moderation, checking on ourselves becomes very important aspect. So whenever it comes to sadhana, I remember one very good line that is there in the Watering the Seed book called Watering the Seed by His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, where he gives a biblical quote: things that matter most should not be at the mercy of the things that matter least. Things that matter most should not be at the mercy of things that matter least. If we follow this principle, by and large, we can, even within the devotional commitments, activities, sometimes we need to take a pause and say no, to maintain our sadhana levels. Nothing wrong. We don't have to impress everybody every time, because there's a need to impress ourselves also, and also save ourselves from burning out. Because if you tend to do too many things just to impress people, or just because you're capable, and then sadhana gets diluted, and that's time when we start feeling the burnout. And that's overcommitment leads us to be distracted, and that distraction will impact our serious study of the Shastras. So sadhana is very important, and studying itself is a sadhana. It's not just chanting or other meeting commitments. Studying itself is. And Swadhyaya is self-study with like-minded devotees, and we know so it can be done alone, or it can be done with like-minded people. And Swadhyaya alone does not make us a good scriptural reader. Swadhyaya is only a part of the whole fabric of social culture, which has sadhana, Swadhyaya, and other elements, the other 3 elements that I'll be talking about. So next is Seva. Seva gives a very important thing. Seva is service. So in our Damodar Desh, we are so fortunate that we have so many stellar Sevadaris who continuously give us a lot of inspiration. But typically, when we use the word seva, normally we remember prasada seva, vahana seva, DT seva, book distribution seva. There are many sevas that are there. But in this context of today, we should also remember studying scriptures is also service. It is also service unto us, and we are doing it for not only for us, for others. More and more of this service we do, better and better we can serve others, and better we can have good, engaging, fruitful relationship with others. So the way in introduction, Gauranga Prabhu said, I am serving Srila Prabhupada books. So seva just doesn't mean that external things that we see and we conduct, but it's also very important. And that's why in 1855, Sri Krishna also says that, engaging in devotion service is to talk about him, and then in full consciousness of him, we can go back to Godhead. And in doing service, one very important thing is, one most important thing that we need to remember is, whom are we serving? Why are we serving? And sometimes what happens is, when we do service, we somehow try to serve for our own cause, our own happiness, rather than the recipient's requirement. So when we are doing service, either in the studies or performing service to others, this is one point which we need to constantly remember. When I take up this service, who am I taking this service for? And our priorities and our engagement and our happiness to do that service should be subservient to the requirements of the object of our worship or object of our respect. So if we are doing the same thing, when you are reading the scriptures as a service, our objective is to get connected to those personalities or the Supreme Lord, his devotees, so that we can perform the loving devotional service. Not our thing. The connection to the Lord is more important than any other thing. So seva has got a different connotations. We can well into this topic at a later time, but this is an important point. And last is the sadachar. Sadachar is also referred as good behavior, Vaishnava culture, and so much of matter is there given in the scriptures. But whenever the word sadachar comes to my mind, one very important shloka from Chaitanya Charitamrita comes, which in my opinion, my own limited personal understanding and experience, summarizes the crux of the whole Vaishnava culture that we talk about. Yadyapi tumi ho jagat pavana, Tomas parshe pavitrahaya deva munigana. This is the instruction that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving to Sanatana Goswami. Tathapi bhakta swabhava maryada rakshana, maryada palanahaya sadhur abhushana. So what he's saying is, my dear Sanatana, although you are the deliverer of the entire universe, even demigods and great saints are purified by touching you. It is the characteristic of a devotee to observe and protect Vaishnava etiquette. The culture aspect comes. Maintenance of Vaishnava etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. And this is instruction he's giving to great personality like Sanatana Goswami. And this very conversation, I read somewhere, this very conversation itself triggered in the next generation of Vaishnava Acharyas to deal with Vaishnava etiquette as a formal discipline to be taught. We get to know about Vaishnava etiquette through so many examples and stories in so many scriptures, but as a dedicated subject matter of a discipline, as a department of study, came into being after these kind of instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is extremely important. If we are studying properly, if we are assimilating properly, if we are having the correct mood, the measurement is how much are we following the maryada, the etiquette. It's very easy to say, but difficult to follow. But if we are conscious about it, whenever we transgress the lines of, offending others or doing some mistakes, because we have not followed the etiquette, because we're all human beings, we tend to make mistakes, right? We need to get back to the shloka, take a pause, simhavalokanam. We need to take, oh my God, this is what happened with me. Oh my God, this is what I've done. So how can I do a corrective action? How can I correct myself? How can I do that? Can I correct? Is there any guidance that I need to get it? But we should not short circuit this. There is no, it's a zero tolerance rule, as we see in this shloka. Without maryada, without imbibing the spiritual culture, no matter what we do, no matter how much service we do, no matter how much svadhyaya we do, no matter how much sadhu sangha we do, doesn't work. That etiquette, cultural aspect has to be imbibed. And of course, last is the sadhu sangha. So much of matter is given in this, but we have to. We all know you're all very serious students of uh, Srimad Bhagavatam, But in the sadhu sangha also, so these are the things: swadhyaya, sadhana, seva, sadacharya, sangha, swadhyaya. In any rotation you take it, I'll try to share my screen here. Prabhu, have few minutes?
Yes, definitely, Prabhu.
Yeah. So this is the thing that you always remember. Any order, but all are important. And I'm sure all of you know a lot about all this. I'll just quickly share very quickly. Probably I'll put it in the group because time is running out. There is one very interesting thing about Sadhu Sangha. Sometime back, I had an opportunity to take a session on that, and in the course of the preparation, I've made one thing. So Sadhu Sangha doesn't always mean that we go after people to get association and things like that. That's good. But there are different understanding of the Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha is not only that we get Sadhu Sangha, we also have to give to others. So giving association to others and getting is good. Getting the association of peers is also Sadhu Sangha. Self-introspecting within us, Yare Dekha Tare Kaha, doesn't mean that we talk about Krishna to others. We can talk about glories, Nama, Rupa, Leela, about Krishna to ourselves also. Because we also need the dosage, right? And association of advanced devotees. Sadhu Sangha doesn't just mean association of advanced devotees. It is also giving association, self-introspecting, giving Sadhu Sangha to our own self, and association of peer devotees. So this is, unless we do all these outer things, then we become deserving candidates to get association of advanced devotees. All can work parallelly, and all can work in line by line also. This is very important, I thought. And of course, there is one very nice session of Amrendra Prabhu. I'll post this. In every canto, he gives the importance of how Sadhu Sangha is given. It's a very good capture of information. I'll keep it. But at the end of this session, as a summary, I will go to another document, completely another document. Sometime back, I had an opportunity to give a session on a review of a book called, this is a book, this is one of the very first books Srila Prabhupada has written, or at least the one which is available to us as the contribution of Srila Prabhupada, Easy Journey to Other Planet. So while I was reading the book and doing the review, I had opportunity to get into one very useful material on reading books or reading or studying books. I'll quickly read that because some of the points which are there in that actually reflect here. So after the end of the session, I covered after end of the review of that book with whatever little knowledge I have, I could get is this. So one important quote is, I do believe something very magically can happen when you read a good book or when you study a good book. And what good book can we think of other than Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and purports of Srila Prabhupada, right? Something very magical. What is that magical? The transformation of heart, getting connected with the God, and having a very unique personality, personal relationship with the characters, personalities that are explained, articulated in that. And that gets transformed into our loving devotion service. And our loving devotion service get transformed into our fruitful, engaging, good dealings with our co-community members or members at large, even in our material sense. So we can become, then that's why we can really distribute books. Distributing books just is not merely by selling or giving books and telling the count, right? Distribution books has got other track of distributing the knowledge that is there within the book. That's also an important thing. And that thing can happen magically. We study books in thing. And Srila Prabhupada, of course, has given a lot of things. I'll just quickly go through that. So these are the effective book reading or studying. This is basically a very nice lecture by Her Grace Narayani Matsji. And one of the devotees by Nempayal Shah has taken a very good notes of it. And she had published this. So I'll quickly read it. One is that we need not have to follow everything always, but principles we need to know. And this was released during the COVID time. So there's a mention of COVID in one place. So find a quiet spot where you can be alone and be able to read for an uninterrupted amount of time with proper mood. That's extremely important, as we told. Sacred space is not only a physical space, but a mental state of mind also. And humble attitude. Approach the book with a need to acquire knowledge and need to receive guidance. So seva. Book reading is also a service. And the personality who's revealing the book, contents of the book, personalities who are being taught in the book are very respectable for us, right? So attitude of humble is very, very important. If you just take the example of journey to journey to other planets, it's amazing to see Srila Prabhupada's extreme humble attitude in the book. First and foremost, he dedicates the book to the scientists. Normally, Srila Prabhupada is known to be very hard on particularly those scientists who are atheists. But this book he dedicates to scientists because he's talking about science. The book is about science. It's a commentary, a response to a Nobel Prize winning article on antimatter. And then he also says, we are like students in understanding the concepts, in understanding the matter that is being told in the article. So that is the humble attitude Srila Prabhupada took while reading a material article, and he connected that material article about antimatter to what we refer to as spiritual matter. So that is the humble attitude. That's a wow moment for me. When I read the first page that Srila Prabhupada is dedicating a book to scientists, oh my God, what is this? So that helped me to understand the humble attitude of the author. And then we offer the prayers, because when we are associating the books, when we are serving the books through our study, they're giving us so much, right? One most important thing that we now also learned is that there's a propensity to transform our heart, and that is enabling us to get connected to the Lord, and so many other things happen. So like that, we can offer prayers to Srila Prabhupada, offer prayers to Krishna, offer prayers to Vyasadeva, and we normally do also, right? Before Bhagavatam, they're not just customary repetition of verses. There has to be some seriousness when we chant, and we have to make a conscious effort to get that mood. Offer our prayers. So no, there is a problem in my life, and by reading this book, I hopefully some problems of my life are get solved. And read slowly. The purpose of reading here, the purpose of reading and studying, as I told you, is not quantity; it's the quality of with meaningful exercise. Even purpose of listening is also. Several times we come out of the class or a session or a lecture or a pravachan, saying that, how well you have spoken, how well you have spoken, you quoted that, this. But content-wise, what are the things that we have remembered? And what are the things that we wanted to recapitulate? What are the things that we wanted to rethink? Somehow that gets missed out, because the concept of deep study or deep listening somewhere get lost in our very good attitude and a mood of appreciating the speaker. That's very good. We must have it. Respect must be there. But what would that speaker love most when somebody appreciating is one thing. If somebody appreciating is by telling him that this is what I learned in reading your book. So if Gauranga Darshan Prabhu meets us, will he be impressed to say, oh, you've written a great book, so many people read it, fantastic, so many shlokas. Or if you just tell 2-3 points, Prabhu, we read this book, you said that when I touch the book, when I think about the book, it's not the text or words, but it's the connection with the personality of the Godhead. What will he be impressed? He'll be impressed with the first statements, or he'll be impressed with the one single statement. So read slowly, read quantity, listen also, get the content and try to recapitulate. And that's where the deepening study happened. Find some interesting words. Today we recapitulated words, right? Transformation of the heart, connection with the personality, making a unique relationship with God and the personalities in the book. Some interesting words which catch our attention. And find again, start reading again another phrase or point that strikes you. And you can repeat. We can repeat the things sometime to take a pause and offer obeisances. And offering prayers, offering obeisances is very important, because out of that causeless mercy, somehow or other, we got in touch of a particular book, right? We get in touch of a particular book or a pastime or an episode or a session. So offer our obeisances so that whatever we read, whatever we absorb, whatever we deeply comprehend gets cemented. If we don't offer our prayers in the beginning and offer our obeisances, either way, offer obeisances, offer prayers, which can be done anyway, any order, but that cementing will not happen. It just vanishes. And apply. Like Gaurang Prabhu said, he has tried to apply, or he has applied whatever he has assimilated, not only in understanding the knowledge, getting the knowledge, but in his other services. So whatever we are reading, is it getting applied in our other services that we do? Is where we need to introspect. So these are the 8 points I thought were very good and connection thing to this. I can also share this in the forum, the thing. And sorry, I think I overtook my time. Apologies, I didn't see the time. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So very few important takeaways. Reading scriptures, studying scriptures is very, very important for us in our devotional life. It is not just the exercise of the intelligence, but it has to be the experience of heart. Our heart should be filled with happiness and bliss when we read and talk about a scripture or a book. Our purpose behind studying scriptures must be aligned with the purpose for which they are written, or they were written, either way. What is that purpose? To ultimately connect with God through loving service, to do loving service, to have engaging good relationship with other devotees. And understanding the scriptures is directly proportional to the attitude with which they are studied, or the mood with which we are studying or we have studied. So this will come when we think about the fabric of social culture in which svadhyaya, seva, sadhana, all those 5 things that I have told come into play. So that is very, very important. So with this thing, I will just again put this slide. So keep meditating on this, how you build your own spiritual cultural fabric. And I've just told whatever little I understood. This book is available in tulsibooks.com. You can buy it and read it. Very small book. I've again today, in this last 1.5 hours, I just spoke one subsection of a section of the book. So you can imagine how much of content is there in the whole book to elaborate on. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Wonderful, Guruji. Absolutely fantastic. So many amazing points and such a important message. Meaning it seems as if we should have understood this aspect before we actually studied Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam. And now it actually encourages us to study it further with the right mood so that we can serve Bhagavatam in a better manner. It was just absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Wonderful. I hope everyone would definitely benefit from this one. In case you are okay, Prabhu, for a few minutes, if someone has a few questions, are you okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Hare Krishna. Anybody has any questions? This is such a topic that it definitely cannot finish in 1.5 hours. And as Prabhu, whenever you are convenient, it will be great to host you again for continuation of this topic.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranams.
Hare Krishna, bro. How are you? Right?
All
All
good,
the way
all
from
good,
Abu Dhabi.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
yes, yes. So it is a great good fortune to hear from you today about this wonderful topic about studying scriptures. To some extent, definitely in myself, I see I definitely lack the details in studying the scriptures, and you have very lucidly covered everything today. And although it's just small part of it, but you have very nicely presented. So thank you so much for that, Prabhuji. So one quick question that comes to my mind when we talk about scriptures is, we have studied Bhagavad Gita, then we are studying Bhagavatam now, and there is also Chaitanya Charitamrita that we have to study. So, is there a way that we can study all the three together? Because I generally understood from my initial days of being into connection with devotees that first finish Bhagavad Gita, then Srimad Bhagavatam, and then you touch on to Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, is there a way that we can start studying together all the three scriptures now? Because already, we have to repetitively study, although we have read once Bhagavad Gita, but we have to repetitively read that and study that. But again, on Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, how we should be planning that? Should we like study together or in parallel? How it is, Prabhuji? If you can guide Prabhu, please.
Yeah, the thanks for your question, Prabhu. It's a very common question also. Sometimes people do ask uh, this. There are two things in this. One is an institutional answer, and normally what uh, our elders are saying in the society. Okay, and there is like what is that? Sorry, there is convenience and the place and circumstance angle. It all depends upon how you want to go ahead. But the three things, right? The what do you call Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. One is a graduate study, postgraduate study, and then higher level of study. BSc is what we call, right? Where Bhagavad Gita ends, Bhagavatam starts, and Bhagavatam ends, Chaitanya Charitamrita starts. So in that way, sequential reading is generally was preferred, because if you jump between directly to Chaitanya Charitamrita while we are studying Bhagavad Gita, maybe some confusion might be there. So that's why it's advisable to go slowly, step by step is one method of doing it. But some devotees find it's convenient to for them it's convenient to do three, because in some forums where I am also uh, I also participate. We have everyday selfie programs there in my mother tongue, where they have one day Chaitanya Charitamrita, one day Bhagavatam, one day Bhagavad Gita. So for them, that is the formula that they found it useful, and that's how they do it. So again, it depends, Prabhu. There's no specific answer, but logically, if you think it can happen, it can happen in a systematic manner. Better to go at least linear. At least Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam probably can be clubbed, but Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you want to have a serious study of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's better to finish Bhagavatam. That's my opinion. At least to some extent of content mapping that has to be there from Bhagavatam angle. Otherwise, sometimes Chaitanya Charitamrita in the beginning itself can be very confusing and daunting to know the appearance, internal reasons why Krishna has appeared and things like that. It can be tough sometimes. So it's again, I would not give a very definitive answer. It's up to you to manage. But the elders say that better to go a bit sequential to some extent possible.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Yeah.
We have
Any of that thing, anyone else also can add and interject me if I'm wrong. Yes, Prabhu.
I think we have Jeev Pawan Gaur Prabhu, who has raised his hand. Prabhu, you want to ask a question?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble, respectful obeisances, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam to you and all the devotees. Sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Prabhuji, and thank you to His Grace Gopimnor Prabhuji. Because of him, we got a chance to have your association and to hear such a nice, very helpful this message, Prabhuji class. Prabhuji, you in this class you very nicely explained about like the two factors of learning, studying Srimad Bhagavatam. One is like Simhangam and one is like Vihangam, like a lion and like a bird. And Prabhuji, you very nicely from book of His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhuji, you explained us how to study. Like the mood should be like not only just study, serving the divine books, and like studying those books, it helps us like for heart transformation of heart and like connection with the Supreme Lord, increasing our loving devotional service to Supreme Lord and devotees, appreciation of other devotees for their appreciation for Krishna. Like example, Sukdev Goswami, you said about His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhuji's conversation with his friend about the question of why there is a peacock feather on the face of Lord Sri Krishna. Um, you very nicely explained us the five factors of spiritual culture, Prabhuji: sadhana, swadhyay, seva, and sadachar, sadhusana.
Prabhu,
And everything you explained very nicely. Prabhuji, my question is, sorry, Prabhuji, just trying to like Prabhuji very nicely said that if you have hearing from someone, then please appreciate with the points. Prabhuji, my question, I have two questions, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, first question is as you said that studying scriptures we develop faith, and like if we have any problems then we increase faith that studying scriptures will we will get this mercy and the power to like come over the problem. So Prabhuji, my question is, Prabhuji, like when we like in your life here in Mumbai, like it is a very busy life, and like every like whatever effort somebody does, they see the productive result of that effort. So like studying scriptures is not like in a very open way I'm saying, please forgive me. Like studying scriptures will not earn us money, as like my in my relation Gujarati family and all, they say, well, right now this is not the age and you are studying, focus on earning money and all that stuff. So Prabhuji, as we engage uh, ourselves in studying the scriptures, like Guru Maharaj says, like you do bhakti shastri, bhakti vaibhav, and that. So studying this book, these scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam especially. So Prabhuji, how should we develop the faith that like studying these scriptures will increase my faith, or from coming over this all these problems, Prabhuji? So that is one question, Prabhuji. I have one more question, Prabhuji. Uh,
Yeah,
if
I
you
think
say
one actually, Prabhu, I'll answer this question in very brief. Yeah, whatever you have asked actually is described in the very beginning of this book. Need for scriptures. Okay, if you buy the book and read it, you'll get the answer straight. Point number one: need for reading the scriptures. Similar, the doubt you have, a similar doubt a student had asked, not Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. But Gauranga Darshan Prabhu was there in that class. In 2009, one of the youth had asked Bhakti Rasamrita Swami, and how Bhakti Rasamrita Swami has explained to him is what Gauranga Darshan Prabhu has captured. It is almost a similar case. That's point number one. And point number two is, when we are saying read and study scriptures, we are not saying study the scriptures 24 hours. I don't think anyone is saying that. We are not monks. We are all grihasthas, right? We have to do our duty 8 to 10 hours. We have to do our duty diligently. Within this space of time that we can allocate it and dedicate for Krishna, for our betterment of our spiritual life, you allocate some time to read scriptures. And that's all. That's a good journey to start with. Nobody is telling to come out and leave everything. If you can, there are so many people in ISKCON, they have done it. Like Gauranga Darshan Prabhu is one very good example. He was he did his engineering, he did his postgraduate at IISc, Bangalore, very famous institute today. He was working in a good company, something later with the TCS company. He has published technical articles in a very short time, which also went for some patent. He was doing all that. But then he decided to leave. But not all of us can be at that level, right? We are stuck in our own material life. We can continue to do that, but with an understanding that our center of our activity, our consciousness is God, point number one. And within the small space of time that we have, we can engage in studying. If we can't study, at least listen. Listening is also studying. So that helps us to get more and more connected with Lord. And nobody's selling getaway. Arjuna wanted to get away from battlefield. Krishna pulled him back and made him work, right? So I think that's the understanding that we need to have. Sometimes what happens is, when we have a problem, we try to look for a solution outside the problem space. But solutions typically are found within the problem space sometimes. So this is the such condition. So kindly note that you don't have to leave everything to displease your family members, or displeasing yourself, or putting yourself into financially precarious and vulnerable position. Nobody is asking that. Just devote your time, whatever little you can, with sincerity, and then Krishna will have his own plan made for you. Yeah, because in Bhagavad Gita, I think the 11.34 shloka, there is a statement about, in the purport, there's a statement of purport that devotees' plans are actually are aligned with God's plans, or God aligns his plans to devotees' plans. So there's one beautiful statement is there. You can read that and get the confidence. I think this is my simple answer. Sorry, Prabhu. Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much. It's just in the interest of time. Anybody has any very small, brief question, or otherwise we can end the session for today? Doesn't look like. So, Prabhu, many thanks again for this absolutely fantastic class, a very fundamental, which everyone should actually focus upon before we initiate our journey of studying scriptures. Very, very important. Thank you so much for this one. One just last announcement for everybody is, we conduct Srimad Bhagavatam classes every Saturday at 10 o'clock Dubai time, 10 to 11:30, which is 11:30 to 1 o'clock India time. So please make yourself available and do join the class. We have reached second canto now and finished the third chapter. And from next Saturday, we will be starting the fourth chapter. So please do join the WhatsApp group. I'll send the link again to everybody. Please join the group and immerse yourself in the nectar. We have stalwart speakers like Radhapat Pankaj Prabhu, Jai Govind Prabhu, Krishna Swarup, Bandhu Baldev Prabhu, and luckily now Jagan Prabhu will also start giving lectures in our group. So please make yourself available and get the best out of Srimad Bhagavatam in the mood that Prabhu has taught us today. Thank you so much.
Prabhu. Thank you, Jagannath Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, everyone. Dandavat pranam.